The evening sky over Hickory Creek looked normal that Tuesday. The sun was setting behind the pine trees, painting everything orange and purple. Sheriff sat on the bank of the creek with his fishing rod, waiting for something to bite. He had been sheriff of this small Tennessee town for 8 years now. His grandfather came from Korea after the war, settled here, and opened a grocery store. Grew up knowing everyone in town, all 847 people. His radio crackled. "You there?" It was Deputy Park, his cousin. "Yeah, what's up?" said, not taking his eyes off the water. "Mrs. called again about lights in the sky, says they're purple this time. You want me to check it out?" Sighed, Mrs. called about UFOs twice a month. Last time it was Chinese lanterns from a wedding. Just drive by and make sure everything's okay. Copy that. Went back to fishing. The creek was peaceful. He could hear crickets starting their evening songs. Somewhere in the distance a dog barked. This was why he loved this town. Nothing ever happened here. Then the sky turned purple. Not sunset purple. This was bright, electric purple. The color spread across the sky like someone had spilled paint. Stood up fast, his fishing rod falling into the water. The purple light got brighter and brighter. He could feel something in the air like static electricity before a storm. A beam of purple light shot down from the clouds. It was as wide as a house and bright as a welder's torch. Couldn't look at it directly. The beam hit something on the west side of town. There was a sound like thunder, then a huge explosion. Grabbed his radio. What the hell was that? "I don't know, I'm heading toward it. Looks like it hit Wu's farm." Ran to his truck. His heart was pounding. Fire, meteor, lightning. He didn't know, but his town needed him. He drove toward the explosion, gravel flying from his tires. When he got to Wu farm, he saw chaos. The big grain silo was gone, just gone. In its place was a hole in the ground and fire everywhere. But that wasn't the strangest part. In Wu's back field there was something else. Something big and metal and definitely not from around here. It looked like a huge ship. Smooth silver metal, no windows, shaped like a stretched-out egg. It was stuck nose first in the mud of Wu's swamp. Purple smoke was coming from its back end. Parts of it were covered in something white and foamy. His patrol car skidded to a stop next to his truck. She got out, her hand on her gun. "Boss, please tell me I'm seeing things." "If you are, I'm seeing them too," said. Other people started arriving. Sung Lee, who owned the garage in town, came in his beat-up pickup. Wu came running from his house, still wearing his overalls. Saul Anderson, who worked at the diner, pulled up on her motorcycle. Soon, about 20 people stood there, staring at the ship. "That's a spaceship," Wu said. He was an old man, been farming his whole life. "That's an actual spaceship. It crashed into my silo." "The silo that had all your fermented corn in it," Sung added, pointing at the white foam covering the ship. "I think your mash is all over that thing." Before anyone could respond, a door opened in the side of the ship. A ramp extended down to the muddy ground, and things started coming out. They were tall, taller than any person. They walked on 2 legs and had 2 arms, but that's where the similarity to humans ended. Their skin was gray and smooth like a dolphin's. They had large black eyes and no visible mouth. They wore tight suits that looked like they were made of metal and cloth mixed together. Each one carried a weapon of some kind. There were maybe 15 of them. They formed a line at the bottom of the ramp. One of them, bigger than the others, stepped forward. It held up some kind of device. When it pressed a button, words came out. Cold, mechanical words. "Humans, we are the collective. This world has been selected for removal. You should not exist anymore. Our weapon was perfect. Why do you still exist?" She looked at him. Then they both looked at the aliens. "Did that thing just say we should be dead?" whispered. "I think so," said. The big alien looked around, confused. The erasure protocol activated correctly. Scanning shows full power delivery. This settlement should be eliminated. Explain this failure. Wu stepped forward, angry. "You blew up my silo. Do you know how long it took me to ferment that corn? 6 months, and you just destroyed it. The alien tilted its head. Your concerns are irrelevant. You should not be here to complain. Well, I am here, Wu said, and you owe me a new silo. More people started arriving. Jin Carter drove up in his truck, music blaring. Jin was half Korean, half white, and ran a moonshine operation in the woods that everyone knew about but nobody officially reported. He jumped out of his truck with a baseball bat. Who are these guys? Jin asked. They look like those aliens from the movies. That's because they are aliens, Saul said. She was tiny but tough, with short black hair and a leather jacket. And they just tried to erase our town. The big alien made a sound like a sigh. It spoke into its device to the other aliens. Didn't understand the language, but he understood the tone. These aliens were not happy. One of the smaller aliens came forward and started examining the ship with some kind of scanner. It made clicking sounds and waved the device around. Then it turned to the big alien and spoke in their language. Even without translation, could tell it was bad news. The big alien pressed its translation button again. Our ship is damaged. The fermented liquid from your grain storage has contaminated our systems. We cannot leave. We require time to repair. So you tried to erase us, crashed in our swamp, and now you want our help, Sung said, laughing. Buddy, I don't think you understand how things work around here. The alien raised its weapon. You will cooperate. We are superior. You are primitive. That's when Wu did something unexpected. He walked right up to the alien, no fear at all, and poked it in the chest. You call me primitive. I've been farming this land for 40 years. I survived tornadoes, floods, droughts, and my ex-wife. You think some gray-skinned spaceman scares me? The alien looked confused. Its weapon lowered slightly. Stepped forward, his hand on his own gun. Here's how this is going to work. You're going to stay right where you are. We're going to figure out what to do with you. And if you threaten my town again, we're going to have problems. Understood? The big alien stared at him with those huge black eyes. Finally it spoke. You do not fear us. Mister said, I deal with drunk drivers, domestic disputes, and lost tourists every day. You're just another Tuesday night problem. The alien looked at its soldiers. They looked at each other. Could tell they didn't know what to do. They came here expecting to erase a town in seconds. Instead, they were stuck in a swamp, covered in fermented corn mash, facing people who weren't afraid. The standoff lasted for several long seconds. Then Deputy spoke up. So, anybody want to tell me what we do with 15 aliens and a crashed spaceship? That was the question nobody had an answer for, at least not yet. The next morning started with problems. The aliens had spent the night near their crashed ship. They didn't sleep like humans did. They just stood there in formation, waiting. Some townspeople stayed to watch them. Others went home, didn't sleep at all. He stayed in his truck, watching and waiting for trouble. When the sun came up, the big alien announced it had a name. Through its translator device, it said to call it Commander Vex. The second in command was called Lieutenant. Neither name sounded right to human ears, but that's what the translator gave them. Commander Vex gathered its soldiers and made a speech in their language. Then it turned to the growing crowd of townspeople who had come to see the aliens in daylight. Humans of this settlement, we require your cooperation. We need supplies to repair our vessel. We need access to your power systems. We need your facilities. You will provide these things. Stepped forward. He had his sheriff's badge on and his hat. He wanted to look official. Commander, we need to talk about how things work here. You can't just demand stuff from us. We are technologically superior. You will comply. Yeah, about that, Sung said, walking up with a cup of coffee. Your technologically superior ship got taken down by fermented corn. Maybe you're not as superior as you think. Some people in the crowd laughed. Commander Vex's body went stiff. Could tell the alien was angry, even without seeing a face. We will take what we need, Vex said. That's when Lieutenant and 3 other aliens started walking toward town. They had their weapons out. The townspeople moved aside, nervous, followed them, keeping his distance. The aliens went to the power station first. It was a small building that managed electricity for the whole town. Old Billy worked there. He was sitting outside eating a sandwich when 4 aliens walked up to him. "We require access," said through its translator. "Nope," Billy said, not looking up from his sandwich. Pointed its weapon at Billy, opened the door. Billy took another bite, still nope. The alien shot the lock off the door with some kind of energy blast. The metal melted and the door swung open, and the other aliens went inside. 30 seconds later, all the power in town went out. Got on his radio. The aliens just shut down the power station. "I noticed," his voice came back. "Mrs. just called. She's very upset her soap opera got cut off." 2 hours later, the aliens had set up some kind of device at the power station. The power came back on, but now it was feeding their ship too. Commander Vex announced that all resources in town were now temporarily appropriated for collective use. That didn't go over well. Jin Carter was the first one to fight back. He had a still in the woods where he made moonshine. The aliens found it while scouting for resources. They tried to take his equipment. Jin said no. They insisted. Jin's 3 hunting dogs said no louder. The aliens had never seen dogs before. When 3 angry coonhounds started barking and chasing them, the aliens ran. They were fast, but dogs are faster. The dogs chased them up trees. Actual trees. These supposedly superior beings spent 2 hours stuck in pine trees while dogs barked at them below. Sung had to drive out with a truck to get them down. He laughed the whole time. "You know," Sung said, helping one alien out of a tree, "for advanced space aliens, you guys aren't too bright." The alien didn't respond, but its gray skin had turned a darker shade. Learned later that meant embarrassment in their species. That afternoon, the aliens tried to take over the diner. Saul was working the lunch shift when Commander Vex walked in with 2 soldiers. The diner was full. Old farmers, construction workers, high school kids skipping class. Everyone stopped eating to stare. "This facility will be converted to a supply depot," Vex announced. Saul was behind the counter, wiping down a coffee mug. She was maybe 5 feet tall and 100 pounds, but she didn't look scared. "Get out of my diner." "You do not understand. We are claiming this building." Saul reached under the counter. She pulled out a shotgun. She didn't point it at anyone, just held it. "I said get out of my diner." The aliens looked at the gun, then at Saul, then at the gun again. "That is a primitive kinetic weapon," Vex said. "This is a Remington 870, Saul corrected. "And it doesn't care how advanced you are. Now get out before I show you how primitive we can be." The aliens left. The whole diner erupted in cheers. By evening, the situation was getting worse. The aliens had taken over the high school gym for their base. They kicked out the basketball team that was practicing. Coach Bailey was not happy about that. She was a tall Korean woman who had played college ball and didn't take nonsense from anyone. She marched right up to Commander Vex. "You can't kick out my team. We have a game Friday. Your recreational activities are irrelevant." "Basketball is not irrelevant. Those kids worked hard all season." "Leave human." Got right in Vex's face. She was almost as tall as the alien. "Make me." They stared at each other for a long moment. Finally, Vex walked away. Who was watching realized something important. These aliens were used to people being afraid of them. When humans didn't show fear, the aliens didn't know what to do. That night, Jin organized a meeting at his place in the woods. About 40 people showed up, was there. So were Sung, Saul, Wu, and others. "Okay," Jin said, standing on his truck bed. "These space jerks crashed here, tried to kill us, and now they're taking over our town. I say we fight back." "With what?" someone asked. "They have ray guns." They have ray guns that don't work great when wet, Sung said. I saw one short out when walked through a puddle this morning, and their armor is tough, but it's not that tough. Billy shot one with a paintball gun, left a dent. We can't just shoot them, said. We don't know if more are coming. We need to be smart about this. I have an idea, said. She pulled out a CB radio. Watch this. She turned on the radio and adjusted the frequency. Then she keyed the mic. Static burst out, loud and harsh. Down the hill near the gym, they could hear the aliens making distressed sounds. Their equipment was going haywire. Their tech is super advanced, explained. But that means it's sensitive. Our old CB radios mess with their systems. Sung grinned, so we fight them with junk. Exactly, said. That night they came up with a plan. Not to kill the aliens, but to make them so uncomfortable they'd want to leave. They'd use everything they had. Old technology, knowledge of the land, and pure stubbornness. The war for Hickory Creek was about to begin, and the aliens had no idea what they were in for. Wu stood up and said something that everyone agreed with. My granddaddy fought in Korea. My daddy fought in Vietnam. I fought in Desert Storm. We're all still here. These aliens think they can push us around. They're about to learn what we do to bullies in Tennessee. Everyone cheered, looked at his town, at these people he'd known his whole life. They were mechanics and farmers and waitresses. They drove old trucks and lived simple lives, but they were tough, and they were angry. All right, said. Let's show these aliens what happens when you mess with a small town. But remember, we're not trying to kill anyone. We're trying to make them leave. Everyone clear? Everyone nodded. The aliens wanted a war. Hickory Creek was going to give them one they'd never forget. The first real battle happened at sunrise 3 days after the aliens crashed. Commander Vex sent 6 soldiers to secure the water tower. They needed water for their cooling systems. The water tower sat on a hill outside town, an old metal tank with Hickory Creek Hornets painted on the side. What the aliens didn't know was that Sung had spent all night setting traps. The aliens walked up the hill in formation, weapons ready. The first one stepped on a pressure plate. A net made of steel cables shot up from the ground, tangling the aliens' legs. It fell hard. The other 5 raised their weapons, looking for threats. That's when the fishing line caught them. Sung had strung fishing line between trees at neck height, nearly invisible. 3 aliens walked right into it and went down. The remaining 2 tried to help their teammates. Sung and 5 other guys came out from behind the water tower. They had paintball guns, not regular paintballs though. These were filled with a mix of mud, old motor oil, and hot sauce. They opened fire. The aliens' fancy suits couldn't handle it. The oil gummed up their joints. The hot sauce got into their equipment. One alien tried to fire its weapon, but it just sparked and died. Within 5 minutes, all 6 aliens were tangled, covered in mud, and completely defeated. Get them to the school gym, Sung said. Lock them up with the others. See, by that point, the town had already captured 4 aliens. They were keeping them in the old gym's storage room, giving them food and water, treating them okay, but definitely keeping them locked up. Commander Vex was furious. He had come to Earth with 15 soldiers. Now he only had 5 left, and these primitive humans were winning. That morning, Vex made a decision. He activated a distress beacon. Help would come, but it would take 3 weeks. Until then, he needed to take control of this situation. He needed to be aggressive. At noon, Vex took his remaining 5 soldiers and marched into town. Main Street was quiet. Too quiet. Vex should have known something was wrong. They walked past the hardware store, past the diner, past the post office. Then they reached the intersection where the town's only stoplight hung. It was red. Vex looked up at it. What is the purpose of this device? Before anyone could answer, his voice came over the town's loudspeaker system, the one they used for tornado warnings. Now. Everything happened at once. The stoplight exploded in sparks. It wasn't an accident. Jin had rigged it to overload. The electromagnetic pulse fried the aliens' weapon systems. Every gun, scanner, and piece of equipment they carried just died. From the roofs of buildings, people started throwing things. Not bullets, they threw bags of flour, buckets of paint, balloons filled with vinegar. The aliens couldn't see. They stumbled around trying to wipe their eyes. Then Wu drove his tractor right down Main Street. He had modified the front with a snow plow blade. He scooped up 3 aliens like they were snow and pushed them all the way to the gym. The other 2 tried to run but ran straight into a fence that Bin Tors had just finished electrifying. Not enough to kill, just enough to stun. 30 seconds. That's all it took. Vex went from having 5 soldiers to having 0. He stood alone in the middle of Main Street, covered in flour and paint, his equipment dead. Walked up to him. "Commander, you're under arrest." "For what?" Vex demanded. "Disturbing the peace, destruction of property, attempted invasion, take your pick." 2 hours later, Vex was locked in the gym with his soldiers. All 15 aliens, captured by a town of 800 people using paintball guns and farm equipment. But the story wasn't over. That night, Sung made a discovery. He was in his garage, looking at a piece of alien equipment they had captured. It was some kind of power cell. He opened it up carefully and looked inside. What he saw made him smile. "Boss, you need to see this," he called to on the radio. Came to the garage. Sung showed him the power cell. Inside were components that looked almost familiar: capacitors, circuit boards, energy storage. "This is just a fancy battery," Sung said. "Really fancy, but still. I bet I can rebuild it using car batteries and some copper wire. Maybe some of those magnets from the junkyard." "Can you copy their tech?" asked. "Maybe not perfectly, but close enough. These aliens aren't magic. They're just engineers from space. And I'm a pretty good engineer from Earth." That gave an idea. Over the next week, things changed in Hickory Creek. The aliens stayed locked up, but the town started treating them less like prisoners and more like unexpected guests. Saul brought them food from the diner. Not the nutrient paste they were used to, but real food. Biscuits and gravy, fried chicken, barbecue. At first the aliens refused, but after 3 days of hunger they tried it, and they discovered something shocking. Human food was delicious, way better than their rations. Lieutenant was the first to ask for seconds. Meanwhile, Sung and a team of mechanics started reverse engineering the alien tech. They couldn't copy everything, but they learned a lot. The aliens' weapons used directed energy. The town didn't have that, but they did have electricity, and they figured out how to make stun devices using the same principles. Bin Tors, the welder, was particularly good at this. He was half Korean, half Mexican, built like a tank and could weld anything. He took alien armor pieces and figured out their weak points. Turns out, the joints were vulnerable to sharp objects and high temperatures. Good to know. His wife organized the women in town. While the men were building weapons and traps, the women were gathering intelligence. They watched the crashed ship. They tracked patrol patterns when the aliens had been free. They made maps and plans. Coach was part of this group. She was smart and strategic. She had played point guard in college. She knew how to read the opponent and plan attacks. "They think in straight lines," explained to the group. "They're used to advanced technology solving problems, but we can think around corners. We can improvise. That's our advantage." By the end of the week, Hickory Creek had become something unexpected. It was now a fortified position. Every road in had traps. Every building had lookouts. The water tower had become a guard post. The high school gym was a prison and command center. And the town had alien technology. They were starting to understand. But then something changed. Commander Vex asked to speak with privately. They met in the gym's office. Vex looked defeated. His gray skin was darker now, which had learned meant stress in their species. Sheriff Vex said through his translator. I have made errors, many errors. That's an understatement, said. My superiors sent us to test the erasure protocol. They said it was perfect. They said humans were primitive and weak. They were wrong. You think? Vex made a sound that might have been a sigh. I have sent a distress signal. A fleet will arrive in 2 weeks. They will have more soldiers, more weapons. When they see what happened here, they will not be gentle. Felt his stomach drop. How many ships? 20, maybe more. They will erase your town and everyone in it. Then we'll fight them too. You cannot fight a fleet, Sheriff. You trapped us because we underestimated you. But they will not make that mistake. They will bomb you from orbit. Your courage will not matter. Was quiet for a moment. Then he said 2 weeks. Yes. Then we have 2 weeks to figure something out, because I'm not letting them erase my town. Vex looked at him with those big black eyes. You truly do not know fear, do you? I know fear, said. I just don't let it stop me. That night called another town meeting. This time everyone came. All 847 people packed into the high school auditorium. He told them about the fleet, about the danger coming. Some people looked scared, others looked angry, but nobody looked like they wanted to give up. Jin stood up. So what do we do? Smiled. It wasn't a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who just had a crazy idea. We do what we've been doing. We improvise, we adapt, and we show these aliens that you don't mess with small-town America. How? Someone asked. I'm working on that, admitted. But we have 2 weeks, we have alien prisoners, we have their technology, and we have something they don't have. What's that? Asked. Home field advantage. The crowd started to cheer. Maybe they were crazy, maybe they didn't have a chance, but they were going to try anyway, because that's what people in small towns do. They don't give up. They don't run away. They stand their ground and fight for what's theirs. The aliens wanted a war. Hickory Creek was ready to give them one they'd never forget. On day 12, everything went wrong. Commander Vex had been lying. Not about the fleet coming, that was true. But he had a backup plan the whole time. Hidden inside the crashed ship were 200 combat drones, small flying machines, each with its own weapon and targeting system. He activated them remotely from his cell in the gym. The drones burst out of the ship like angry hornets. They were each about the size of a basketball, black metal with 4 spinning rotors. Red lights glowed from their sensors, and they were all heading toward the town. The first person to see them was young Park's teenage son. He was on watch at the water tower. He grabbed his radio. Mom, we got problems. Flying things coming from the ship. How many? Radioed back. Young looked through his binoculars. His voice cracked. All of them. The drones reached Main Street in less than a minute. They started firing energy blasts at anything that moved. Cars, buildings, people. The first blast hit the post office and blew a hole in the wall. The second hit a parked truck and set it on fire. People ran for cover. Was at the sheriff's office when the attack started. He could hear the explosions. He grabbed his shotgun and ran outside. A drone swooped down at him. He fired. The buckshot knocked it off course but didn't destroy it. Everyone to the defense positions, yelled into his radio. This is not a drill. The town had prepared for this. Not for drones exactly, but for an attack. People knew where to go and what to do. The plan they had spent 2 weeks making was about to be tested. Sung was already at his garage. He ran to his special project, a combine harvester he had been modifying. It was a huge farm machine, normally used to harvest wheat, but Sung had welded alien shield generators to it. He had mounted a captured alien weapon on the front, and he had painted it matte black because it looked cool. He climbed into the driver's seat and started the engine. The machine roared to life. All right, ugly, Sung said to the harvester, let's go to work. He drove onto Main Street. Drones swarmed him immediately. Their energy blasts hit the shields and bounced off. Sung aimed the alien weapon and fired. The beam cut through 3 drones at once. They exploded in midair. How do you like your own technology? Sung laughed. But there were too many drones. Even with the shields, he couldn't get them all. That's when Jin showed up in his modified truck. He had mounted alien blasters on the roof, powered by car batteries and pure determination. He also had mounted speakers that were blasting heavy metal music at maximum volume. Turns out, the drone's sensors didn't like loud sounds. They got confused, flew erratically. Jin, Sung yelled over the radio. Take the east side, I got west. Copy that, brother. The battle spread through the whole town. On the roofs of buildings, the hunting club had taken positions. Dan Rogers and his crew were expert shots. They had regular hunting rifles, not alien tech, but they were hitting their targets. Lead them less, Dan called to his team. They're faster than ducks but dumber. Every shot counted. Every drone destroyed was one less weapon firing at their homes. At the diner, Saul had a different strategy. She was too small to use big weapons, so she used fire. She and had made dozens of Molotov cocktails using Jin's moonshine. They threw them from the diner's roof. When a drone flew through the flames, its electronics fried. This is for my diner, Saul yelled, throwing another bottle. At the high school was coordinating everything. She had set up a command center in the principal's office. Young was feeding her updates from the water tower. Other spotters around town were calling in drone positions. Ben, you got 5 drones heading toward the elementary school, said into the radio. I see them, Ben answered. He was at the school with his welding equipment and some makeshift weapons. Bringing up the net now. He hit a switch. A huge net, electrified and made from chain-link fence, shot up from between 2 buildings. 3 drones flew right into it. They sparked and fell, destroyed. But the drones kept coming. For every one destroyed, it seemed like 2 more appeared. The town was being overwhelmed. Then Coach had an idea. She remembered something from biology class years ago. Starlings, those birds, they confused predators by flying in big flocks, made it hard to focus on one target. Maybe the same trick would work with drones. She got on the radio. Everyone with a vehicle start driving in circles around the town square, confuse their targeting. 10 vehicles started circling the square. Cars, trucks, tractors. The drone sensors didn't know what to shoot at. They started firing randomly. Some shot each other by accident. It was working, but they needed to stop the drones at their source. They needed to stop the ship from sending more. Made a decision. Sung Bin Jin, meet me at the edge of town. We're going to the ship. Boss, that's suicide, said. Maybe, but it's the only way to win. The 4 men met at Wu's farm near the crashed ship. Drones were launching from it in waves. They could see an opening in the hull, glowing with purple light. We need to get inside and shut down the drone bay, said. How? Bin asked. Sung smiled. The old-fashioned way, we blow it up. They loaded up Jin's truck with everything they had. Alien weapons they had captured and figured out how to use. Bombs made from fertilizer and diesel fuel. Thermite charges Bin had made. And a lot of hope. The drive to the ship was terrifying. Drones attacked them from every angle. Jin drove like a madman, swerving and dodging. Sung hung out the window, firing an alien rifle. Bin threw homemade imps that looked like modified microwaves. Shot his shotgun at anything that got close. They crashed through the fence around the ship. Jin didn't slow down. He drove the truck straight at the opening in the hull. At the last second, everyone jumped out. The truck hit the ship and exploded. The 4 men ran through the flames and into the ship. Inside was like nothing they had ever seen. Purple lights everywhere. Metal walls covered in alien writing. And in the center, a huge chamber where drones were being launched. Commander Vex was there. He must have escaped from the gym during the chaos. He was at a control panel directing the drones. "You should not be here," Vex shouted. "Yeah, well, we get that a lot," said. Vex raised a weapon, but Bin was faster. He threw his cutting torch like a spear. It hit the control panel and exploded in sparks. The drone stopped launching. "No," Vex screamed. "You have destroyed our only advantage." "That was the idea," Sung said. "He was setting charges around the drone bay. You got about 2 minutes to get out of here." They ran. Vex ran too, realizing his ship was about to explode. They made it about 50 yards before the charges went off. The blast knocked them all to the ground. When looked back, the entire drone bay section of the ship was on fire. In town, the remaining drones suddenly stopped moving. They fell from the sky like metal rain. Without the ship's signal, they were useless. The battle was over. Hickory Creek had won. But it came at a cost. Buildings were damaged, cars were destroyed. A few people were injured, though thankfully nobody was killed. The town looked like a war zone, because it was. That night everyone gathered in the town square. They were exhausted, covered in soot and dirt, but they were alive. Stood on the hood of a burned-out car. "I won't lie to you, we're in bad shape. The fleet is still coming in 5 days, and I don't know if we can win that fight." "So what do we do?" someone asked. Before could answer, Commander Vex walked forward. He was handcuffed, guarded by, but he looked different, less arrogant, more respectful. "Sheriff," Vex said, "may I speak?" Nodded. "I have observed your species for 2 weeks now. I have been defeated by you repeatedly. I have eaten your food. I have watched you fight for your home with courage I did not think primitives possessed. I was wrong about humans. We were all wrong." "What are you saying?" asked. "I am saying that when the fleet arrives, I will tell them the truth. That Earth is not a primitive world to be erased. That humans are warriors. That any attempt to conquer you will fail. I cannot stop them from coming, but I can make them think twice about attacking." The crowd was silent, then Wu spoke up. "You do that even though we beat you." "Because you beat us," Vex corrected. "You have earned my respect, a rare thing for our species to give." Looked at his town, at the faces of people he had known his whole life. Then he looked at Vex. "All right, we'll take all the help we can get, but if your fleet attacks anyway, we're ready, right?" The crowd roared in agreement. They had 5 days to prepare, 5 days until the final test, but for now they had survived, and that was enough. 5 days later they came. The fleet arrived just before dawn. 20 massive ships, each 10 times the size of the one that had crashed. They hung in the sky above Hickory Creek like dark clouds. Their shadows covered the entire town. Every person in Hickory Creek was awake, watching. They stood in the streets, in their yards, on their roofs, silent, waiting. Stood in the middle of Main Street with Commander Vex beside him. Vex was no longer handcuffed. He had asked to be allowed to speak to his superiors first. Agreed. What choice did he have? A beam of light shot down from the largest ship. When it faded, 10 aliens stood in the street. These ones were different from Vex's soldiers. They wore fancier armor, decorated with symbols. The one in the center was huge, bigger than any alien they had seen before. It spoke without a translator device. Its voice boomed across the town. "I am High Commander or of the Collective Fleet. We received a distress signal from this location. Commander Vex, report." Vex stepped forward. For a moment he looked at, then he turned to his superior. "High Commander, I must report a failure. The erasure protocol did not function. This settlement was not eliminated. Furthermore, my entire unit was defeated and captured by the local inhabitants." Silence. The High Commander's expression, if you could call it that, was unreadable. "Defeated," or said slowly, "by primitives." "They are not as primitive as we believed, sir." "I see." The High Commander looked at. "You are the leader of this settlement." "I'm the sheriff," said. "Sheriff, welcome to Hickory Creek, though I'm guessing you're not here for a friendly visit." Your species was selected for removal. Initial surveys indicated you were technologically inferior, culturally divided, and unable to pose a threat to collective expansion. Commander Vex's mission was to confirm this. He has failed. That suggests our intelligence was incorrect. Your intelligence was very incorrect, said. Then you will not object to a demonstration, or raised one hand. One of the ships in the fleet powered up, energy built around it glowing bright blue. It was charging a weapon, a big one. People in the town started to panic. Some ran for their homes. Others grabbed weapons, even though guns would be useless against a spaceship. But stood his ground. If you're going to kill us, at least hear us out first. Why would I do that? Because Commander Vex has something to tell you, and because you're curious. You want to know how we beat your soldiers. The High Commander paused. The charging weapon powered down slightly. Very well, Commander Vex, explain how you were defeated by an inferior species. What happened next shocked everyone. Vex told them everything. The crash, the failed erasure protocol, the battles, the traps, the ingenuity, the courage. He didn't make excuses, he just reported the facts. And as he spoke, noticed something. The High Commander was paying attention, really paying attention. When Vex finished, he said something unexpected. Sir, I request that Earth be classified as a protected world. They may not have our technology, but they have something more dangerous. They have the will to fight, and they are very, very good at fighting. The High Commander walked forward. He stopped right in front of. You used primitive weapons against advanced soldiers. You improvised solutions to problems you had never encountered before. You refused to surrender even when defeat seemed certain. This is unusual behavior. We call it being stubborn, said. We call it dangerous. The High Commander turned to his officers. Show me the battle recordings. One of the officers projected holographic images in the air, videos from the drones during the battle, watched himself and his town fighting. From the alien's perspective, it looked different. It looked impressive. A bunch of humans using old technology and sheer determination to fight off an invasion. One clip showed Sung in his modified harvester, laughing as he destroyed drones. Another showed Saul throwing Molotov cocktails. Another showed Ben using a welding torch as a weapon. Another showed Coach coordinating the vehicle circle strategy. The High Commander watched all of it without speaking. When the videos ended, he said, I have reviewed conflicts across 300 worlds. I have never seen such tactical creativity from a pre-species. You adapted and overcame in minutes what should have taken you years to learn. How? Wu stepped forward from the crowd. Because we've been solving problems our whole lives. We fix broken tractors with duct tape. We jury-rig solutions to everything. We make do with what we have. That's not special. That's just living in a small town. Yeah, Jin added, walking up beside Wu. You guys got fancy technology. We got stubborn determination and no quit in us. You tried to erase us. We took it personal. The High Commander looked at them both. Then he did something nobody expected. He laughed. It was a strange sound like rocks grinding together, but it was definitely laughter. Remarkable, he said. Absolutely remarkable. He turned to face the whole town. People of Hickory Creek, the collective came here to eliminate you. We believed you were weak. We were wrong. I am authorized to make field decisions regarding potential threats and allies. I am making such a decision now. Everyone tensed. This was it, the moment that would decide everything. Earth is hereby declared a protected world. No collective ship will enter your system without permission. No collective soldier will threaten your people, and any species that attempts to invade your world will be considered an enemy of the collective. You have earned this through combat, a rare honor. Silence, then the whole town erupted in cheers. But wasn't cheering, he was thinking, what's the catch? The High Commander tilted his head. Perceptive. The catch, as you say, is this: we want to learn from you. We want to study how your species thinks, how you solve problems, how you fight. In exchange for protection, we ask for knowledge. What kind of knowledge? Your engineers showed remarkable ability to reverse engineer our technology. We want to understand this skill. We will offer trade, technology for knowledge, resources for insights. We believe both our species can benefit. Looked at his town, at the people who had fought and survived. He saw Sung giving him a thumbs up, Saul nodding, smiling. They trusted him to make the right choice. Okay, said, but we have conditions. Name them. 1. You help us rebuild what your drones destroyed. 2. You teach us about space travel and other species we might meet. 3. Any trade or agreement gets voted on by the whole town. We do things democratically here. And 4. You leave Commander Vex here for a month as a liaison. He's the only one of you who understands us. Vex looked shocked. Sir, I agreed, the High Commander said. Commander Vex will remain as our ambassador to your world. He will assist in rebuilding and act as a cultural bridge. Are these terms acceptable? Extended his hand. Deal. The High Commander looked at his hand. After a moment, he reached out and grasped it. They shook. It was the first official handshake between humanity and the collective. The next few weeks were strange and amazing. The collective ships helped rebuild the town. They had technology that could repair buildings in minutes, but the townspeople insisted on doing some of it themselves. They wanted to keep their own style, their own character. Sung opened a business repairing alien ships using human engineering principles. Turns out, a lot of alien mechanics were interested in his methods. They were simpler, easier to fix in the field. Word spread fast in the collective. Jin's moonshine became famous across 3 star systems. Aliens came from hundreds of light years away just to try it. He had to expand his operation, built a whole distillery, got proper licenses and everything. Saul's diner became a tourist attraction. She started serving a mix of human and alien food. Her special was redneck fusion cuisine. She hired Vex as her assistant cook. He learned to make biscuits. Coach started teaching basketball to aliens. They were terrible at it, but they loved the game. Became Earth's unofficial ambassador. Not officially recognized by any government, but when aliens wanted to talk to humans, they came to Hickory Creek, to the small town that couldn't be erased. 6 months after the fleet arrived, sat at his favorite fishing spot. The creek was peaceful again. The sky was clear. Well, mostly clear. There was an alien ship up there somewhere, but it was so far up you couldn't see it. Commander Vex walked up and sat down beside him. Sheriff, may I join you? Shore fishing. Yes, I have grown fond of this activity. It is peaceful. They sat in silence for a while. Then Vex said, I need to tell you something. The collective's High Council is writing a new doctrine because of what happened here. They are calling it the Hickory Creek Protocol. What's that? A warning. Before any species considers invading or erasing humanity, they must review what happened here. They must understand that humans are not to be underestimated, that you are creative, stubborn, and dangerous when threatened. You have changed how the entire collective views your species. Smiled, so we're famous. Infamous, more accurately. There are alien children on 20 worlds who are told stories about the Rednecks who defeated a collective unit using farm equipment and alcohol. You are legends. Never thought I'd be a legend. I just wanted to protect my town. That is why you are legendary, Sheriff. You did not seek glory. You sought only to protect your home. That is the most dangerous kind of warrior, the one who fights for something they love. His fishing rod bent. Something was biting. He reeled it in. A nice bass, maybe 3 pounds. You want to try? Vex took the rod, showed him how to cast. The alien tried and tangled the line, helped him fix it. They spent the rest of the afternoon fishing, talking, and watching the sun set over Hickory Creek. The town that couldn't be erased. the place where aliens learned that humans were not to be messed with, and where one small community changed the fate of an entire planet. All because they refused to give up. All because they stood together. All because they were stubborn rednecks who didn't take kindly to being erased. And that was exactly how it should be.